There's a growing disparity of health status between those with positive food choice behaviors and those with poor food choice behaviors. Well, this seems obvious. Those that eat good are healthy, and those that don't are unhealthy. However, it goes deeper than this. Making healthy food choices seems quite easy for most. Just go here, or here, or here, and buy fresh fruits and veggies instead of the packaged food we all know is bad for you, and you're good to go. But what if you live here? Or this is your nearest source of food, or you don't have a car, or you're unemployed and cannot afford healthy food options. Or better yet, what if you've never received proper education on making healthy food choices? It is these people who are victims to the present health disparities of food systems. And the effect does not stop here. Access to food transcends into diet, which transcends into overall health, representative of the trickle-down effects of health disparities. The disparity in health due to food choice behaviors is not in fact a matter of choice, but of education and accessibility to resources. In response, our group decided to research possible effective programming for how this health disparity could be limited right here in the Tuscaloosa community, and created a twofold design in order to do so.
Our population were the women and children of Turning Point Women's Shelter in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Many of these women and children come from sorrowful pasts, including abuse, so they turn to Turning Point to help them escape that harsh reality. Many of these women come from low socioeconomic levels, which mean that they don't have the education to know about proper portion size and nutrition. This means that they are going to fast food joints, buying Cheetos instead of proteins and carbohydrates and produce for their children. So we wanted to help them by creating an easy and simple recipe for them to follow, because most of these women can't go out to restaurants and they can't grocery shop on their own, so they have to make do with what is at the shelter, which is why we wanted to build a garden for them. The shelter also does not provide these women a TV, so they are not allowed to watch cooking shows with Bobby Flay and understand how to make easy recipes at home.
To implement our service learning project, we wanted to grow a garden for the people of the Women and Gender Resource Center. All of these women come from very serious situations, and we wanted to create a garden that was safe and accessible to them. So ultimately we decided that the best place to plant this garden would be in their very own backyard. This would create a steady supply of fresh vegetables to them. Originally, we hoped to grow tomatoes, cucumbers, and bell peppers because not only are these easy to grow, but they're also very sustainable. Our idea was for the women to have access to fresh produce, and through the process of watching us grow our garden, they could learn how to do that as well. This creates an easy way for people to incorporate fresh produce to their diets and watch it grow in their very own backyard. This can make it a little bit more easy to eat healthily, and in the future, hopefully, if they want to do this outside of the Women Gender Resource Center, they can do this for themselves or even their community.
So we thought of this idea of building the garden in the backyard of the women's shelter because gardening is a great way to get healthier food options, and it's also a great hobby to keep you entertained and your mind off stress and other situations you may have going on. So the reason we thought that would be beneficial is because when the women that come to the shelter are in very serious situations, and it's a great way to take their mind off those situations completely and just worry about something else for a little bit. And that also trickles down to when they come to eat the food, and that actually helps them to give them more courage and a sense of pride as to where the food is coming from. So if they know it's coming from their garden in the backyard, they're gonna be more willing to try it. And if they see the other women in the shelter try it and like it, then they'll be more willing to give it an attempt as well. Another thing that the garden is beneficial for is if we plant a lot of vegetables that can be used in different recipes, then you don't have to worry about them not liking it just one way, because they can cook it a different way, maybe with something that they do like, and just incorporate those veggies into their meals a little more.
While there were many benefits to helping the women, we also had to recognize there were some barriers as well. The first one being that the women do not do their own grocery shopping. Instead, the women who run the shelter do it. This can make it hard for each woman in the shelter to find healthy foods that they personally like, since everyone's taste is different. Another barrier we had to recognize is that some women have better cooking skills than others. For example, some women did not know what it meant when the recipe we were teaching them how to cook told them to clean the inside of the bell pepper, while some women knew exactly what to do and got right to it. The women in the shelter are also not there for very long, typically only 2 to 3 days, while the women try to find them more permanent housing. This can be a barrier because if our group isn't available to meet the women at the shelter for a period of time, that is a missed educational opportunity for us to teach them healthy eating behaviors and also how to teach them to grow and cook the foods that they are growing in the garden. Another barrier that we had to recognize was that some women told us that financial reasons were one of the reasons they could not get healthy foods. So this is why we chose to grow foods that take small amounts of land and are also easy to grow, so that when the women leave the shelter, they can take the knowledge they learned about growing foods and start their own garden wherever they are. And since they are growing their own foods in their own garden, this could allow them more wiggle room in their food budget to buy other healthier food options.
Our first interaction with the women at Turning Point was when we gave them a quiz to assess their knowledge about nutrition and evaluate their personal kitchen skills in their diet. The questions on the quiz asked about the amount of servings of vegetables that the average adult should consume, how many food groups there are, what their typical meal consists of, such as if it's takeout, pre-made, or made at home, what their biggest disadvantage to food prepping is, and about the quality of their skills in the kitchen. After they completed the nutrition assessment, we cooked dinner for them by using the vegetables that will be grown in their garden. We made stuffed bell peppers that were filled with ground beef, rice, and cheese. The women with good kitchen skills helped us prepare their meal in the kitchen. The dinner was enjoyed by the women of Turning Point, and they said that they would cook the meal again at another time. This well-rounded meal included a source of carbohydrates, healthy fats, protein, and a vegetable. Vegetables such as bell peppers, cucumbers, and tomatoes are all easy to grow and are a great source of nutrients and vitamins to an everyday diet, which is why we chose them for this project.
Results of the initial pretest showed that 50% of the women have poor health choices and behaviors, mainly due to their lack of resources. The women were very eager to learn and share their experiences on their input of health and diet. They were very excited to try the food that they had helped prepare. We assessed their knowledge gained by the demonstration through a post-test survey, and the results proved that implementation was very effective and useful. Since the women enjoyed the recipe we followed, they said they were more likely to use this on their own time, proving the project will last even after we are gone. Even though this is an ongoing project, we expect overall health behaviors to increase and that the Turning Point residents will have increased access to healthier foods, including fresh fruit and vegetables, due to the garden. We hope that healthy eating habits and sustainability expressed by Turning Point residents will increase.
In order to keep the garden functional and last for the future, our group plans on making a pamphlet that will include a My Plate graphic, some tips for taking care of the garden, and some healthy recipes that they can make with the vegetables that are grown in the garden. This pamphlet can be used as a reference to encourage healthier food choices and correct portioning. We also plan on using social media as a source to encourage others in the Tuscaloosa community to volunteer at the shelter and help with the upkeep of the garden. We hope that the implementation of this garden and the food education that the residents receive will have a lasting impact on not only the residents of the home, but also their families and generations to come as well. Through the implementation and continuation of this project, we hope to create a sort of rippling effect of encouraging change through the women, community, state, and one day the whole country to make lack of education and access to healthy foods a thing of the past.